What's your creepiest glitch in the matrix or unexplainable thing that's ever happened to you? I was walking my dog and I was almost to the driveway when I looked down for some reason and I looked back up and I ended up being back at the road about 6 blocks away from where I thought I was. I was so confused, but my dog looked completely fine. For your information, I don't drink or do drugs. I'm still pretty young. 6 blocks, that's freaky. If it was just a few meters I probably would chop it up to not paying attention or something, but that's intense. My sister pretended to feed my bear when we were kids. I saw the beans on the spoon. She put it to his mouth and scooped. Showed me the spoon and the beans were gone. No beans on his lip. Nothing. Like he actually ate it. She never told me how she did it and she doesn't remember doing it now. I assume you're talking about a teddy bear, but I kind of hope you're not. I had just pulled into the parking lot of where I worked and was walking towards the building. It was like 3 in the afternoon. Broad daylight. All of a sudden, I heard an ambulance's siren start sounding. Naturally, I looked down the road to try and see the ambulance. I see it approaching and decided to watch it for a bit. It was quickly getting closer, and it was about to pass right by me. However, there was a large SUV waiting to turn out of the parking lot and onto the road, blocking a few meters of the road from my view. The ambulance passed behind the SUV, probably about 50 feet away from me at most, and I vividly remember the siren becoming completely silent in that instant. The ambulance had vanished entirely as it passed behind that SUV. I was so confused. The road did not have many cars on it at the time, and it was broad daylight. I did a triple take and made sure that I didn't just miss it. I had a clear view of the road going both directions, and there was no more ambulance to be seen. No more siren either. I walked up and down the road, trying to find it for a solid minute, but nope, it was gone. I was well rested, not on drugs, and I didn't have a history of hallucinations. It seems dismissible, but I was completely aware of what happened, and I can't explain it to this day. As someone who used to have such hallucinations, security footage helps a great deal. Also, a pet is really useful. If they aren't responding, I could relax. My wife passed away a year ago today. Had some odd things happen, like a couple of old meaningful pictures show up that I swore were in storage. The strangest one was I vacuumed the carpet and as soon as I was done a diamond ring was on the ground right where I had just cleaned. It was like she was saying, hey, this one is real, don't lose it. This one is really lovely. I'm sorry for your loss. I hope finding these things brought back some wonderful memories. When I was living with my parents, my dad was cleaning out one of his drawers and found a piece of paper with a postcode for a nearby city on. When he showed me, I immediately recognized it as my own handwriting, except I have no memory of ever writing out this postcode. So I punched the postcode into maps to find it is a random street I have never visited before and I have no reason to I wish I had have gone. Maybe the universe was trying to show me something. It was you from the future trying to send your past self a message. Quick, it's not too late. Around 12 years old, I was watching Megas XLR, or something that was on at the time. Sitting there, I noticed that the sun just turned off, like completely. I was real confused, opened the blinds and it was dark. Show was still at the same spot, but the clock on the cable box said it was 5 hours later. My best guess for what happened was that I passed out without realizing it, like those nights where you lay in bed and blink and suddenly it's morning. So I'm guessing I fell asleep sitting up for exactly enough time to have Cartoon Network play a rerun of the show get to the exact spot I fell asleep at. Was surreal though. I think you just fell into a light sleep. Sometimes when I'm in the passenger seat of a car on a long drive, I'll fall asleep listening to the radio. When I wake up, it feels like I didn't even sleep, and I can remember everything that was on the radio, but the other person in the car is certain I sleep. I snore. I should have fallen into the River Thames once. Me and some friends from uni were exploring London and taking pictures beside the Thames when I decide posing next to the wall is a weak photo, so decide to climb up for better photo opportunities. As I hoisted myself up, I must have used far too much power and knew fully I was about to go straight over and into the river, which was like a 20-foot drop. I managed to get 1 foot onto the wall and felt something completely stop my momentum. Almost felt like divine intervention in a way. I stood up straight, alive and still on dry land. as I turned to express how close I was to dying there, and then someone took a photo of me, which is still one of the best photos I've had taken of me to date. If someone took a photo of me after a near-death experience like that, the only notable feature of it would be a growing wet spot on my pants. I've told this story before and could go into a ton of detail, but here's the short version. I am 100% sure I vividly remember a dog that apparently doesn't exist. When I was 16, we lived on the other side of the province and my uncle had this little Jack Russell named Crew. Crew went missing for several months and then turned up at a humane society over an hour away, and we were all shocked this little dog has made it so far. Anyway, that was almost 20 years ago, and the other day I was talking to my parents and was like, whenever I hear about Jack Russells I think about Crew and that stunt he pulled, and they had no idea what I was talking about. Insisted my uncle had never had such a dog. I must have dreamed it, etc. Honestly, anyone else who would have remembered this dog has been dead for a long time, and I don't even have any pictures of my uncle. I have absolutely no way to prove this dog existed, but I'm sure that he did. They may have just forgotten. My parents are like this as well. Not that long ago I was telling them about a letter I had written to my dad while he was away a few years ago. They both insisted I must have dreamt it, but I found it not long after. Sometimes people can be forgetful. It doesn't necessarily mean Crew didn't exist. When I was a kid I had a dream. A bunch of us kids were playing hide and seek near my house out in the snow. I started digging into the snow to hide and came across a dead girl. The very next day, I was walking home from school and pretty much in the exact same area I dug in my dream. I saw the girl. Same hair, same face, same jacket. I was across the street, but I kept staring at her while walking. She eventually noticed and I ran off. I never saw her again. Was the weirdest thing ever. I was working on my motorcycle in a dirt lot where I had crashed it trying to do a sick drift, breaking off the clutch lever and the gear shifter. I had brought a wrench set with me and I was using one of them to take off a bolt when I put it down on the ground to finish unscrewing the bolt with my hand. 2 minutes later I went to pick it back up and it was gone. I ran all around this dirt lot looking for it to no avail. Luckily I had a spare in the car. Fixed the bike and drove back to my apartment to shower as I was filthy. I walked in my room and sitting on my desk was the wrench. I was dumbfounded. I remember driving my car to this intersection in this rural area and I'm checking both sides because of terrible blind spots. In the corner of my eye my mother is sitting there and says something like it's all clear my way. I look back and she isn't there. My mother had been dead for a few years at this point. This was also in the middle of the day and I've never had it happen since. I actually think that is lovely. I hope you found this heartwarming rather than scary. Sorry for your loss. I was reading Kurt Vonnegut's last book, Timequake, and had put it in my backpack to read while on the bus. I left the house and for some reason about a block later I thought to myself, did I put the book in my bag? I looked and it wasn't there. Went back to the house and couldn't find it. Retraced my steps to where I turned around and it was nowhere to be found. I never found the book again and gave up on trying to get another copy. I think it was Vonnegut's way of telling me it wasn't worth the read. More likely Vonnegut's way of getting you to buy another copy. I don't personally remember this, but I would see my dead grandfather all the time when I was a kid. From the ages of 7-9 there was probably 10 different incidents. My dad was an absolute pansy when it came to ghosts, which I don't really believe in, and wanted to take me to the doctor. My dad had one of those bathrooms with a separate toilet room and no one that lived in the house closed the bathroom door unless they were bathing. I was playing RuneScape and my dad asked why the bathroom door was closed, and I said it's because grandpa's in there. That's the only one I actually remember. There was maybe 2 other bathroom incidents and some incidents when I would sit on the floor and watch TV with my dad and he would tell me to go sit in what was once my grandfather's chair and said I couldn't because grandpa was sleeping. I don't know how creepy these are tbh, but they freaked out my family for sure. My friend Sarah was in a nightclub, drunk off her face, when she got an overwhelming urge to tell a total stranger that her leg hurts. Edit, it didn't. All a bit strange. She ignores it but it doesn't stop, so she walks up to this guy and says, I know this is crazy but I've got a huge urge to tell you my leg hurts. I know that's crazy. Again. Sorry. But he bursts into tears. Turns out his dad had just died and they made a pact before that if there was an afterlife he would get a message to him saying a totally random phrase, so there could be no mistakes, which they decided was "I've hurt my leg." When the song The Final Countdown was released in the 80s, I already knew it. It was brand new, just released, but I knew the tune and the words and could sing the whole thing beginning to end. I believed for a while that it was a cover version, but it wasn't. I don't know if it's true, but I remember my father, who was a kid in the 80s, telling me that The Final Countdown was released and wasn't successful, but then released again a year later and that's when it exploded. That would explain that. It isn't creepy, but when I was in high school I had a dream I was in all-white classroom, totally white, like the ones you would see in a dream, and a girl was sitting in the chair on my side. During the dream, I knew it was a dream because that girl was a senior. We didn't have common classes. About 6 years later, I was at a master class. The sun was shining bright outside. The classroom was very illuminated, and I see this girl on my side. We are doing masters together and having a class in all white freaking classroom. Of course I remembered the dream at that very moment. 3 times in the last year I have had a strong feeling to comment to someone about a part of their body. I've not done so because they're people I don't see often and it would be weird. But a few weeks after each one of those people were diagnosed with cancer in the part of the body I felt I needed to comment on. If I get that feeling again, don't care who it is, I'm gonna say something. Hey, I know we don't speak often but your butt is cancer. Have a great day. So this has always bothered me. I was 13 years old at the time and my dad was a coal miner. He worked third shift, known as the hotel shift, which was midnight to noon. As such he got home around 2 PM and slept till around 9. Got up, had dinner with us and left for work. My dad was always pretty gruff and constantly yelled at us if my younger brother or I made too much noise and woke him up after getting home from somewhere, which as an adult now I completely understand. So one day I did something to wake him up. I forget what. Anyways he calls me back to the bedroom and I'm expecting to get a dressing down but he just looked at me and said, "It's okay. Come over here and give me a hug." What 13-year-old boy wants to hug their dad? I kinda squirmed a bit and he followed up with, "What if something happened to me?" and just laid there all grizzled and tired. I didn't hug him. That night there was an accident in the mine. He saved everyone on his crew, including the one person he went back in for. His was the only death, and I'm convinced he knew it was gonna happen. I'll never forget his eyes that day. If someone asked you for a hug, give it to them. I love you, Dad. I've told this on Reddit before but here it is. I had a very important document that I only ever kept in one place. I kept it in the top drawer of a small filing cabinet. I never moved it and would always see it in that drawer whenever I opened it for whatever reason. The day came that I needed it now and I didn't sweat it because I knew exactly where it was. Well, I'd be damned if it wasn't there. Cue panic attack. I tore that filing cabinet up. I removed everything and spread it out, flipped papers over, dug through envelopes, shook everything out, shined a flashlight all through the emptied cabinet in case it was somehow stuck to the sides. I mean, it was not there. I can assure you no one took it or was messing with me. I was so frustrated. I even looked through other parts of my house, but I knew it wouldn't be in any of those places and it wasn't. I was intermittently going back to that dumb filing cabinet. No luck. Super irritated. I searched the rest of the house again and, on my way back downstairs where my filing cabinet was, I called out in frustration, "Okay, bring it back." I don't know who I thought I was talking to because I was alone, but you guessed it, I found it in the top drawer of my filing cabinet where it should have been in the first place. I was relieved and totally freaked out. I always have weird visions or I'll see something in a dream, but I won't notice that I've seen it. Then like a week or so after I'll see the exact same thing. Almost like deja vu but not quite since it hasn't actually happened before. It would always be something so specific and it has happened multiple times so it can't just be a strange coincidence. Wait, this happens to me too. I'll have a dream where something is happening in the background or I am doing something and I don't register it. And then a few weeks later I'll see it in real life. I'll then realize that I saw it in a dream. Taking the trash out at night. Super remote area so I know for a fact we're the only ones around here. getting close to the road, and I hear very clearly "help me" from a female voice. Even knowing there's such a slim chance of there being another living person around, I still feel like I should look around and check it out in case I wasn't just hearing things and someone actually needs help. Take about 2 steps in the direction I thought I heard it, hear a giggle in the same exact voice, turn around and walk promptly back up the driveway because frick that crap. Anyone who actually needed help wouldn't be laughing, I don't think. I like that you had to be specific that a living person would be a rarity near you. I have a good one. I was about 12 years old and woke up in the middle of the night needing to take a leak. I walked across the hall to the little bathroom, hit the lights, and was about to reach for the toilet when I glanced up and saw a face in the mirror. It was not my face. It was as if someone was on the other side, standing to the right, with their face right next to the glass, staring at me. I only saw it for the briefest moment, but it is seared into my brain. I screamed and ran out of there to find my dad. Of course, my dad investigated, then calmed me down, or tried to. Eventually we had a prayer session, because I was so freaked out. Eventually I must have gone back to sleep. Fast forward to my 30s. I'd forgotten all about the event. One night while visiting, my dad quietly brings it up. "Remember that one time you saw a face in the mirror?" It suddenly came back to me in a rush of memory, sending a chill down my spine. "Yay, I remember. Well," he said, "I sometimes think about that night." He looked down at the floor with a serious expression. "I saw it too." He went on to describe exactly what I'd seen. We have no idea what that was. Apparently when he investigated, he saw it and had a freak out of his own. Apparently the prayer session was as much for his own nerves as mine. I respect him for keeping that tidbit from me till my 30s, but I kinda wish he'd never told me. So, this might be hard to explain. I was probably 12 and lived in a big log cabin. One day while my parents were at work, I got in a fight with my brother, 18, who had some anger issues. He chased me through the house and I ran out one door, around our porch and in through another door. I was going to lock it behind me but didn't have time because he was too close behind me. So, I slammed the door behind me and kept running. When I glanced back to see if he had made it through the door yet, he was banging on the window of said door and yelling for me to unlock it. The door was locked and there was no he had locked it, because the door could only be locked from the outside with a key of course, and our parents never gave us keys. There was also no way the door could have accidentally locked when I slammed it behind me, because it needed to be fully turned to lock, and usually required some finagling at the end to make it actually lock. I stood there dumbfounded for a few seconds and then ran to a bathroom and locked myself in there. Definitely feel that saved me that day. This didn't happen to me, but to my mother and aunt when they were younger, and to this day is the creepiest thing I've ever heard. So one day when they were around 16 years old they were alone in the house for a couple of hours while their mother was out working. I don't remember exactly which one of them noticed this, but one of them walked into the kitchen and was shocked to find that the stove had somehow been ripped open all the way into the oven. My mother described it as if someone had stabbed the top of the oven, slashed it, and then pulled that slash open with their hands. Both of them saw it, and when I asked my aunt about this story she gave me the same description. Also, this was definitely not a visual hallucination because they swear they reached with their hand from inside the oven to the top through the hole. They both swear they were sober at the time, and I believe them because they were raised in an extremely religious environment, so it's impossible they were drunk or high. When my grandmother got home they naturally went to show her the slash, only to find it was completely gone. The stove was completely normal and there was no sign of a hole ever being there. This experience is probably the only reason why I'm not completely skeptical about the supernatural. I've got other personal experiences of this sort, but they all can be explained rationally one way or another in a way that makes complete sense. But this story is way beyond me. Okay, my sister and I were playing the age-old game of get the frick out of my room. If you've never played it before, all you do is try to get the intruder out. I managed to get her outside the door, but she always trying to push it open while I was attempting to close it. Suddenly, I slam it shut, meaning I won. I turn around and there is my very confused sister wondering how she ended up back in my room. In her confusion, I managed to get her back out. I love how getting her out was still the priority even though she just inexplicably appeared in your room. For obvious reasons I always keep a reverse Uno card in my pocket, a blue reverse Uno card which I once found on my nightstand. Anyways, I had accidentally washed it with my pants. It was destroyed. The next day after waking up, guess what I found on my nightstand? A blue Uno reverse card. You better prepare to be washed at some point. You washed the reverse card. Now the reverse card will wash you. My dad's story. We spent a lot of time growing up by a local creek fishing in my family. My brother and dad were all alone in a meadow around the end of summer and my brother looks at him and says, "Do you remember when I was big and you were little?" Keep in my mind my brother doesn't talk much at all and he would be about 4. My dad was obviously creeped out but was like, "What buddy?" And my brother said, "When I was big and you were little," and wouldn't elaborate further. My brother has no clue what he was talking about but apparently we all had a moment like that. All alone with parents asking if they remember when we were big and they were little. When I was 14, 1995, during the eerie calm before a summer lightning storm, my dog Daisy, Chow Lab Mix, started barking at the corner of the basement. There was nothing to bark at, just stone fireplace and a tile floor. Suddenly a lamp set above the fireplace had the light bulb explode and a painting hung next to it shattering as it flew off the wall at an almost 90-degree trajectory, landing 10 feet from the wall. My brother and I have theorized for years what it was. Our best guess is that lightning hit the chimney and that's what did the damage. We've never been able to figure out how our dog knew it was about to happen. The charge built up and was audible to the dog before the strike. I once went to sleep in an unmade bed, cause I'm lazy and was too tired to make it LOL. I was laying under the covers and I woke up laying face down sideways on top of a completely made bed. Not me but a buddy of mine. We were playing Xbox and we both have Elite controllers which have magnetic joysticks that pop right off so you can switch to another. Well, he tossed his on his bed and went to the bathroom. He came back to find his right joystick missing. I let him use mine because I prefer the longer ones. During the summer he texted me saying he found it at his dad's house, 150 miles away from where he regularly hangs his hat, his mom's house. Must have gotten in with some laundry. When I was 5, I was sitting and watching my dad cook. Everything went white for what seemed like a minute and then back to normal. Still sitting upright, my dad still cooking in the kitchen. For years I was convinced I had been abducted by aliens. Of course, 10 years later I was diagnosed with epilepsy, so it was probably just a seizure. I guess what I'm getting at is that any unwilling lapses of consciousness feel kinda like the world crapped the bed for a moment. This just happened today. My daughter, 4, was playing in her room on the 2nd story. I was 2 rooms away, playing my guitar. Very loudly, I heard my daughter screaming, "Daddy, come to the guest bedroom. I want to show you something." This immediately seemed off. We have an extra bedroom, but I had never heard her call it that before. While she also has pretty good speech, this was amazingly clear. When I walked around the corner, into the bedroom to see what she wanted, I saw 2 little legs sliding out the window. I jumped across the room and grabbed my daughter by her ankle before she could fall out. After a not great moment where I yelled at her, then hugged her, then yelled again, then apologized for yelling and hugged her, I finally calmed down. We had a talk about why we don't play in windows. While I was putting the window back together, she had pushed and popped out the storm and screen window from the bottom. I asked her what she wanted to show me. What do you want to show me? You asked me to come see something. No, I didn't, Daddy. Are you sure? You told me to come to the guest bedroom. I little whiny now, and annoyed. No, I didn't, Daddy. You didn't ask me to come to the guest bedroom to see something. Number. Okay. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.